Thank you so much to Seth and to Omnell for that beautiful, beautiful music, taking us into a place. And this is Gabriel Mendoza, but also going by Omnell. And he's actually not only our guest musician today, but he's also our guest speaker. And he's going to be talking to us about his bowls, how beautiful they are. Aren't they lovely? Aren't they transcending? The way they move us. We are such resonant beings. And the sound of music just takes our vibrational frequency to places beyond our imagination. And it does something to our physical health that is almost sometimes indescribable. Seth is a sound healer, and also Gabriel, they both know that. And so if you have an opportunity to have a personal experience with them, I would encourage that. So welcome. Glad you're here. I wanted to talk to you today. First of all, I missed you so much last weekend. I thought it would be cool kind of having a weekend off, but it just didn't feel right. The whole time I was in this workshop in San Diego, I kept looking at the clock. Oh, it's 10 o'clock, they're in service now. Is everybody there? They're all having a good time. Is everything going okay? And I kept watching my clock. It's 11:30. What if I could call in and like just be... So, I mean, I missed it. It was terrible. But I was in this workshop in Oceanside. How many people have heard of Lisa Nichols? She was one of the actresses in The Secret, and she co-authored Chicken Soup for the African American Soul, and she also was a best-selling author in her own right with a book called No Matter What. And she's an hysterical, just really entertaining, charming, charismatic, transformational speaker. And I found her captivating. I went up to Beverly Hills in March, and I went to a dinner where she was, and I signed up for this workshop that she had over the weekend. And it was called Speak and Write to Make Millions, and basically it was just how to be a better transformational speaker and how to write a book. But it ended up being so much more than that. She gave 3 days of solid content on running your organization and all of these just amazing tips. And everybody was just writing for 3 days. But the most profound message that she was giving to everybody was to be of service, and to be of service with integrity. And when you hold that space, then you open up to possibilities. And she was constantly bringing everybody up on stage that she had worked with and people from her history to share these stories. And I wanted to share two particularly with you today. One of them was, Lisa used to do speaking engagements. She started doing this about 15 years ago. And there's a C speaker, a B speaker, and an A speaker. And a C speaker goes around and speaks at small events, you know, pretty much for free. And a B speaker maybe has a book and they might get a small fee. And then your A speakers are like Jack Canfield, Mark Victor Hansen, where they've got, you know, $10,000, $25,000 speaker fee. So she was a B speaker for about 10, 15 years. And she met this woman, Susie, and they were both speaking at the same event. And Susie said, I'm a transformational life coach. And Lisa said, well, I think I need one of those because my life really isn't moving at the place that I want it to be. And she asked how much it was, and Susie told her. And Lisa looked at her and she said, I don't pay myself that much money. And Susie said, well, then you really need my services. So Susie became Lisa's coach for about 5 years and took her business all the way through all the branding process and all the structures and all the things that needed to happen. But in the meantime, Susie herself, she had been a hairdresser. And she opened a salon, hired a lot of hairdressers, this was years before, and recognized that when her hair salon business wasn't growing and thriving and making a profit, she recognized that she had to put some systems in place, some infrastructure, and do some branding. So she created a training program for the hairdressers that were in her salon. And this actually became a skill set that she realized she had quite a good talent for. So she sold the hair salon and then opened a training development company. She grew her company, and over the years, it became one of the best training development companies in the area. And she was approached by another firm that had one to buy her company for $15 million. Not bad for a hairdresser. So she agreed. She did 2 years of due diligence, understanding this company, making sure that they had all the same philosophies that she did, and that they were in line with how she did her business and how they treated employees, and making sure that she was handing over all of these employees and this branding that she had created to a company that had the same energetic alignment with her. 2 years later, they finally sold the deal. She got $7.5 million up front and was told she would be an employee for the company, and after a year she'd get the remaining $7.5 million. About 6 months into the process, she discovers that they're selling their company to another investment banking firm. And she declared her discontent with this and said, "You knew about this. This is something you should have told me during our due diligence, because the company who's buying you is not in alignment with who we are." And they started making changes, and they fired one of her top people that she had spent years grooming. And she said, "You can't do this." And she was flying back and forth to New York, and she said, "You can't fire my people." And they said, "Well, actually we can. We own the company. We can do whatever we want." And she said, "Not with me on board." And she said, "I quit." And they said, "You can't quit. You'll lose your $7.5 million. And she said, "Watch me." And they said, "No one walks away from $7.5 million. And she said, "Watch me." And she walked out the door. And she left $7.5 million on the table because she was in her integrity. And her authenticity and her integrity had been compromised. This is where we are going now. Our movement, all the people that are in this room, and the community that we're developing, is in integrity. And we don't sell our souls for zeros in a bank account that ultimately are meaningless to the quality of life and what we create. This is the way things are moving now. This has not been the way things have been in the past. But this is what we're creating now. We're creating integrity. We're creating a thing that says honesty, compassion, kindness, and love, and consideration for our fellow community and the world that we live in is more important. And that comes first ahead of personal wealth. Because only then, of course, do you actually have wealth. And so Susie was devastated, but she figured $7.5 million. She had invested it, unfortunately, in real estate. And so she found herself not only getting the back end of the $7.5 million gone, but all of her real estate investment holdings were now tanked. And she went from being a 15 times over multi-millionaire to virtually penniless. And had a lot of spiritual journeys around what that meant to her. So she joined Lisa Nichols' firm as her president, and the two of them now are building this firm. And they do speaking engagements, and they empower people. And it was one of the most beautiful 3-day seminars I had ever been to. I mean, I was high for days afterwards when I came back. And I came in, I'm like, we're going to do this, and we're going to do this, and we're going to change this. And I can't wait to do Tuesdays as our admin day. We're going to put all of these beautiful ideas that I got over the weekend into place. But it allowed me to see vision. It allowed me to see possibility. And I went there with the idea that I wanted to get a mentor. And I mentor people here, and I coach them, and I put them in sessions, and we even have a mentorship program here. But it occurred to me, I need a mentor. I need somebody that if I need to fall apart, I can go and talk to, and I need somebody who's 10 steps ahead of the game for me to keep me on my track. So the Friday before I left and went down to the seminar, we had recently paid off our corporate American Express card for the temple, and the paper bill came in, and I never look at the paper bill because I always pay the bill online. But I happened to get the bill on my hand, and I looked at it, and I saw the balance was zero, and I saw the credit limit on the card, and basically I had that amount that was free. And I didn't really think about it more, but I knew in March when I saw Lisa that I wanted to get a mentor, so I went down there on Saturday morning, and I was really tired. I'd just gotten through writing a 100,000-word manual for our Conscious Anatomy Medical Intuitive course, and we had just taught 16 weeks, and I really hadn't had a day off since January, aside from the 3 days I was sick with a cold, which doesn't count. And I went there pretty tired. And I got in there Saturday morning, and I just felt really empty. And like I just drained all of my resources. And I just sat there and I thought, I need a mentor. I need somebody to be able to pick me up. So in the morning of the first break, I went out there and they had their back of the room sales and they had a table there for coaching. And I picked up this form and there was a line item that said, laser coaching, move beyond all of your limiting beliefs. And the amount on there was the exact amount that was the limit on the credit card that I had just cleared. I went, okay. Looked at that and I went, okay, little bitty sign. And before I knew it, I just was filling out the form and I was pulling out my American Express card because this girl doesn't leave home without it. And I swiped it away. And then I went, oh my God, what have I done? How am I going to tell Audubon? I just spent that much money.
You just did.
I didn't tell him that night. I was too much in personal shock. And I remembered thinking at the time, I thought, I can't put the whole amount of this thing on the card. It won't go through. It needs to be slightly less. So when I went up there, she said, you get a 5% discount for signing up and paying in full. I went, okay, another sign. So I came home and I didn't tell Audubon that night. I was, yeah, had a good day. Yeah, it was a great day. Great seminar so far. I'm thinking to myself, how am I going to tell him? So I went down the next morning and I was feeling better. I had taken some naps during the day in the car. And I was beginning to feel spiritually fed and I was beginning to see possibilities and open up. And so I sat there. And at lunchtime, when we came back in, I was lucky enough and I got a seat right down in the second row. There was 350 people in the seminar and I was sitting in the second row. And I thought, I'm feeling better. I'm wondering, do I really need this coaching? It's a 3-day cancellation on any standard contract. And I started thinking about it. I thought, was I impulsive? Well, because I was feeling low and now I'm feeling better. Do I really need this? I'm kind of getting a lot of good content in this. And I thought, is that my ego talking me out of it? Because it knows that a coach like that is going to really make me uncomfortable and push the envelope. So I knew my ego was afoot, but I didn't know which direction it was pulling me in. So I sat there, and I prayed. And I said, Creator of all that is, universal energies, I'm confused, and I don't know what to do. I don't know if I should have signed up for this class, or if it was just something that was impulsive. Give me a sign. I need to know if this was the right thing for me to do. I know what happened. 5 minutes later, maybe 6 minutes later, on top of the stage, Lisa Nichols all of a sudden says, where's Danielle Hewitt? And I heard my name, and I looked at the person left to me, and I looked at the person right, and I thought, did she just say my name? And she said it again. So I kind of had this curious look on my face, and my hand went up. And she said, this is Danielle Hewitt. And she just signed up for the laser coaching. And I want to acknowledge her in front of everybody. And I'm telling you, this was 5 minutes after I said that prayer. 350 people stood up and applauded me for signing up for the laser coaching. And she looked at me and she said, I want to tell you that your life is going to change, that every limiting belief you have is going to get changed and modified. And the person who's going to be coaching you, Allison, I personally trained her. And if you spend a day with Lisa, it's $32,000. She said, I personally trained this person, and if she has any blocks that she can't get past with you, she'll come and talk to me and I'll get involved. And she said, if you do the homework and you follow the plan, She said, everything in your life will change. And she said, I just want to acknowledge you in front of everybody. And I sat down and I said, well, I guess that was my sign. Yes, sir. And I just couldn't let that sit. For a few minutes she was talking about something else, and so I sat there and I raised my hand. And I said, is it okay if I say something? And so they had a mic runner come over and give it to me, and I started saying something, and she said, oh, come on, baby. She said, you're too short. She said, come on up here on the stage. Okay, so I walked around and I stood up on the stage, and I told them what just happened. How I had come in empty, wasn't sure what to do, did that swipe, and how I had just 5 minutes earlier made that prayer, and she was holding my hand. She was so nice. She was standing up on stage holding my hand, and I said, and you called me out in front of 350 people. And she laughed and she said, we didn't script that. And then afterwards, everybody else started signing up for classes. And they had another probably 30, 40, 50 people signing up for laser coaching and global leadership. So not only did I get the confirmation for myself, but I helped feed her organization, because they are absolutely in every way of service with full integrity. And it encouraged another 20, 30, 40 people to sign up and get the coaching that they might not have otherwise. And maybe they sat there and asked for guidance on whether they could do it. And it was all because I sat and asked for a prayer and asked for a sign. So I would ask you, what are you confused about? What direction is it that you need to go? And all you have to do is sit and ask for a sign and say, I don't know how this is going to work. I don't know my way out of this. I don't know what that looks like. But I'm willing to see. And I'm willing to look at possibilities that I would never have imagined me capable of doing. Show me what that looks like. So this is a new format that we're going to be taking in Sunday services and all of our classes. Transformational thinking that puts us on the road of possibilities. Destination to possibilities. And the next day, I said there were 2 stories, it's actually 3. The next day, there was a woman that was sitting over on the right flank. And this course was $397 for the 3 days, which was a bargain. And for $99, you got to bring a friend for free. So this woman stood up and she said, I didn't even have the $99 to come here. My friend paid my $99 to come here. And I've been listening to you now for 2.5 days and seeing everybody sign up. And she said, I wanted to take the Global Leadership, which is a year-long program where they meet once a month. And they had people up on the stage that were talking about the way their businesses had transformed since they had done the Global Leadership the year before. People were doubling, tripling, and quadrupling their businesses and doing things beyond their imagination. And she stood up and she said, I'm a single parent and I've got 2 babies. And I'm under court order that I can't spend any money aside from this amount that gets shown to the court, that it has to be for gas and groceries and bare necessities. And she said, I went over to the Global Leading Coaching table and said, I want to sign up, but I have this and this and this, and these are all the reasons why I can't. And Lisa's staff member looked at her and she said, well, that's your story. She said, now what do you want to do about it? So she put $4,000 down and she signed up for the Global Leader. And she said she was shaking because she had to get that money off of that card before it closed so that her husband in the court wouldn't see it. And she said she went back to the hotel room with her friend that night and was up all night and couldn't sleep and wondered what she'd done. And she said in the morning she woke up and she heard the message, write a budget. And she got clarification again and it said, write a budget. So she's standing up in the crowd telling the story and she said, I wrote my budget down. But I need this much money to pay it off. And I need this much money a year to feed my babies. And I need this much money for credit card debt and this much money to expand my business, and she came up with a need of $250,000. And she's a counselor that works with children who are ADD and autistic. And she helps get the child off of medication and does it through nutritional counseling. And she said, when I wrote that $250,000 down, all of a sudden, she said, I heard the message, ask for help. Go to your clients. And she said, I'm going to go to my clients, all of them, and ask them to invest in me, and I'm going to sell shares in my business. And I'm going to sell off 30% of my business. And I'm going to raise this $250,000. And as she was talking about it, she had this budget in her hand, and she was holding it up, and this emotion that was coming over her. But in 24 hours, she had gone from a state of, I can't afford $100, to, I can raise $250,000, and here's how. She went from a place of not seeing anything possible to complete possibility by changing her focus and stepping out and stretching and saying anything is possible. So what situation are you in right now, possibly, that you think there's no solution to, there's no way out of? Are you in a job that you don't like? Are you struggling with income? Are you in a relationship you don't like? Is your business not starting? Is it not taking off the way you want it to? We've got to get out of the box that we're in and start moving into a place of possibilities. And so this morning I was starting to think about where to be doing this move to this new location in August or September. And I've been guided that it's going to be a lot more money. And I kept asking, when am I going to see the building? When am I going to see the building? When is it going to be revealed to me? And this morning when I woke up, I was given all the ways that we're going to fundraise to be able to afford that building. Now I can see it. Now I think in the next week or two, we're going to find it, because now I can actually see it as a possibility. Wait till our staff meeting on Tuesday.
More stuff.
But I can see it as a possibility now, and the solution was so simple and easy and feasible and logical. But I couldn't see it before because I had decided it wasn't possible to generate that kind of income to cover that kind of expense. But now, it's easy and simple. You just have to open your mind and say, okay, all the ways that I've been looking at this in this little box, that I see it, you can't find an answer in that little box, got to think outside the box. And if you don't know how, that's okay. This is where you ask for guidance. Guidance will show you how. I watched a movie last night, People versus the State of Illusion. It was a director's cut that we were given access to, and it's going to be filmed here on Thursday, May 4th, May 3rd. We really encourage you to come and see it. We're going to have it right here on the screen, and that movie is also all along the lines of the billions and billions and billions of thoughts, that energy that comes into our mind, and we can only process a fraction of 1% of it. So when we ask for guidance, we have the ability to get that one nugget, that one piece of information, and focus in on it that shows us how. So I encourage you to come and watch that movie. And we also have a double feature. We have another movie on Friday night, which is all about love and relationships. So DeMarie Mulcahy is going to be here on Thursday with a screening of the State versus People versus the State of Illusion. And on Friday, Jane Gare, who was our guest speaker last weekend, she'll be here on Friday night with a movie all about love and relationships and the human connection. So come and see a double feature. Come and see one Thursday and Friday. Thursday is going to put you into a state of seeing possibility and changing your perspectives. And Friday will put you in a place of love and human relationships. And I think we'll put some kind of package together deal where each of them are individually priced, but I think we'll put some package together where if you do a double feature, you can get both. So come and find out what it feels like to live in a state of possibilities, always, and with love and compassion, being of service, and being in a place of integrity. Namaste. Thank you. Any questions? Wasn't that an amazing story?
Yes.
About how she stood up? I would probably say that was my most single, effective, immediate, irrefutable sign I have ever had. Absolutely irrefutable. Amazing. Anybody else ever had anything like that happen when they asked for a sign and it was given to them, you know, in billboard fashion, right there in their face? Anybody ever have anything like that happen to them? I'll be telling that story for years. I absolutely couldn't believe it within minutes.
I kind of have one. At the time before we bought our house here in Orange County, we were questioning about whether we should live here and should we get a house here. You know, if we get a house, it would be permanent. Because I was questioning about whether I should go back to Malaysia or stay here. So I asked, I said, well, is it give me a sign if I should stay here? And we were at Dana Point Harbor at the time, just walking around after breakfast. And there we saw 3 dolphins in the harbor, frolicking in the water. And I just thought, what are the odds that dolphins are in the harbor? They don't come in, they're usually outside. I took it as a sign. I mean, there was just that one time and they were in the newspaper and they never came back again.
Nice.
So that was just not as clear, but it was just, you know, seeing that dolphins, it was just really unusual and strange.
Well, I'm being guided to share that we get signs all the time, but we don't always pay attention to them. So easy for us to brush them off. You could have so easily brushed that off and said, oh, cool dolphins, and never actually made the connection that the dolphins were coming out to play with you and saying, yes, stay, it's a fun place to live here. It's really cool. So you may get signs all the time, but maybe you don't always choose to recognize them. Yeah, Julie?
I had a sign, very much so. I was meditating. I always ask for guidance of searching for friends that are like thought of what we are, you know, and to be able to open up to that. And so I came here after I meditated and everything, and it was the first Saturday of the month. And there was this little meeting that, you know, the freebie type of thing that, you know, you listen to people and everything. And so I came in a little late, and I saw this one place, and so I sat down next to this guy. And so, and there's quite a few of us in there and everything. And so we listened to the sermon and everything. And then this gal and I started talking. And she was here to visit. She came from back east, Florida, and she was here, you know, visiting and just learning all the different different areas that everybody has in the different temples. And so I really befriended her, and I said, well, you know, would you like to go down to San Diego and the temple there and different things like that? And so we really got into it to the point that we are now emailing back and forth, and we give a call and talk for an hour at a time, and it's just wonderful, and it's just for my meditation, and then just coming here, and it's just like, whoa, it just.
You asked for community.
Right.
Nice. And it was that day?
That day.
That's how fast it works.
Right.
Yeah, when you're clear, signs can come really immediately. They don't make you wait. Because otherwise you wouldn't make the connection. So the signs usually come very, very quickly. So the connection is always there.
I was just going to say, I remember in the 90s when I did the life spring personal effectiveness trainings, and I had really got through the first one when they were enrolling for the second one, which was several $100s. I was a poor college student. I had to rearrange everything. I was terrified. I rearranged my final schedule, and the teacher wasn't happy about that. But I had to empower myself to arrange to totally take the final another day, so I could be in that place. Didn't have the money, and I remember just there was a meeting there, and they said, go out, get some candy, come back with a basket. I had a basket. By the time the night was over, I had raised like at least half of the money that I needed to do that. I mean, it all happened, and then within like 30 days, I got out of kind of a bad relationship. So it all happened really fast, and once I declared it and said I was going to do it, then it started. People started giving me money, $50 here, $100 here, so that I could do that training. It was pretty intense. I didn't even know.
Right.
I didn't realize the momentum that was happening, so I could be in that place.
When we make the affirmation, I want this and this will happen,
Yes,
then it does.
yes.
It does. And it's not, oh, I wish this could happen, and wouldn't it be great if this, like, this will happen. This, I will be in there. Then you've created this scenario where it happens. This is what we've been talking about all the time. We've been doing Sunday services here. I want you to just breathe into the knowledge of how powerful we are. And the idea, of course, is although we do these manifestations, and I say, wouldn't it be nice if I had a cookie here, and all of a sudden somebody walks in and hands me a cookie. Those are great, but of course the idea is that we see these small manifestations coming forward. We see how easy it is to create these things, but we start using them on a much larger scale. What if we all started saying, all financial institutions are in integrity, all food is organic, all nations are in harmony, all currencies across the board are in fairness, all investments globally are now sustainable, responsible investments. What if we started thinking along those terms and we put the power of that into saying that will happen, and we do it together? This is what all of these little confirmations are showing us, is how powerful our thoughts are. We can create the world that we would like to see. It's not a pipe dream. That's what all these confirmations are about, showing us the possibilities. We're not just some small little group living in a bubble here, in a small room, carving out a safe place of a community where we can come and talk about anything that we want to and have a little oasis here. We're creating something here. Every time we sit here and talk about these beings of possibility, we take that into our heart space and we send that out, and we give a ripple effect to everybody we meet for days, that they too can be in a place of possibility. All we have to do is round up enough people to create what we really want. I want a world where everybody understands their power of creation, and that they can create shelter, food, friendship, camaraderie, trust, love, and family. Do you believe that's possible? I do. There are no rules that say there have to be rich, middle class, and poor. Who wrote that book? Nobody. Those rules are not anything that we have to buy into. We can manifest with our mind on a molecular level. We can manifest anything we want. We can manifest that there are things that get produced that we want. Don't pollute the air, and don't harm animals, and don't just create our ozone layer. We have the possibility to create all of this. All we have to do is understand it's real and start manifesting on a grander scale. So let's set that intention, and then I'm going to let now do some singing bowl work with us and tell us about it. But let's just close our eyes for a second. setting that intention, feeling the power of our group together. And imagine, if you will, looking at the earth from a satellite view, seeing the ozone layer completely intact, seeing all the oceans clear, bright, and blue with no pollutants in them, and no trash. See the air crystal clear and blue with no pollution. See any of those manufacturing plants that are puffing dirty smoke into the air, see them all converted to clean energy, shining bright, producing everything we need with clean energy. Imagine all of the food that's grown all throughout the world, completely organic, pesticide-free, flourishing in abundance. See livestock roaming free, being grass-fed. And a balance of our diets being between fruits and vegetables and livestock that's in perfect balance with our physical needs. See all of the financial institutions reasonably operating, nominal profits that serve the community and just keep currency flowing, so we have a means to exchange with each other, a way of measuring. See all the rivers, clear, bright, flowing. See all of our weather systems in perfect balance, global warming, exactly the way it's supposed to be. See all of our automobiles running on hydrogen or some sort of clean air, and see mass transits everywhere also running on clean fuel, and all reasonably priced. So we can hop on a train in Los Angeles and be a high-speed train and be in New York in 3 or 4 hours on a high-speed clean energy, and have lunch there and then be home at 9, back in LA for dinner. All of this is possible. See a unified world government where all of the different countries have one goal: personal, human dignity, peace, and abundance, working together. And see the councils of all the world governments keeping everything in perfect balance. See everyone working just a decent amount during the day, with time enough to play in the evenings and the afternoon, with children and with neighbors, to read books, do art and creation, meditation, exercise. See us all having beautiful, healthy bodies where we live well past being a centenarian in grace and beauty. See us all unifying in mutual prayer. See everything sparkly, light, and bright. And so it is. And we create this right now, all of us here together in this room. Did I miss anything? Anybody want to add anything? Oh, disease-free, perfectly healthy bodies. Anybody have anything they want to add? No, pretty well covered. We can create that. That's possible. Okay. Anybody have that visual?